tribulations, my heart, my balls, my somebody stop, somebody come and get me. Little did I know that the Lord was riding with me. The dark, the light, my heart, the fight, the wrong, the right is gone.
Welcome back, people, to another JVS movie review. This time we are bringing you Blake Lively's latest movie, the 2020 dramatic thriller spy genre-ish type film, The Rhythm Section, based off of the series of books by Mark Burnell. I think I'm saying his name right there. It's called the Stephanie Patrick trilogy or series or saga, whatever you want to call it. There's 3 or 4 books in this series so far. This is the first one, picked up by the same guys who made the James Bond films. Picked up this series that I'm guessing to attempt to start a new franchise with this one, to maybe mix to bad results. But before we get into that, let's get into a quick synopsis of this film. Stephanie Patrick veers down a path of self-destruction after a tragic plane crash kills her family. When Stephanie discovers the plane crash wasn't an accident, embarks her down a bloody quest for revenge to punish those responsible. Now, if you read that synopsis, right? You know, if somebody told you that was what this movie was, you would go in there thinking, man, we about to get the female James Bourne, or Jason Bourne, I'm sorry, or the female James Bond, or we about to get some. No, we get none of that here. Normally I will veer down and tell you all how the score is and how the cinematography is, but I'm going to cut that out because I want to focus strictly on this as a movie based off of a book that, for people who have not checked it out, the Rhythm Section book, the book is not that good. The book is very uneven at times, but it clearly defines who Stephanie is. The movie doesn't, and yet it still has the pitfalls in being as uneven at times as the book is. This character leads you to make leaps and bounds to even come remotely close to believing this story. From the moment we set foot in Stephanie's world and we see the whole thing with the family is mainly shown to us in flashbacks of what happens with her family on this plane crash, and then the plane goes down and she veers down a path that, in all honesty, she should never in a million years be able to come back from. But amazingly, she meets a reporter who's interested in her story, even though she's not interested at all in telling her story, and that leads to her discovering something on his wall, leading her to Jude Law's character. Also, by the way, there's only 2 other actors in this movie that matter. Jude Law, who plays her Mr. Miyagi in a way that makes no sense, and Sterling K. Brown, who plays her, I don't know. His character makes literally no sense in the way they plotted this movie from the book. But she ends up meeting Jude Law magically somehow, being a heroin-induced prostitute who should not be able to survive the things that she survives to get to Jude Law. She gets to Jude Law and he decides, you know what? This strange woman shows up at my house with a gun. I'm not going to kill her. I'm going to train her. And from there, it gets ridiculous. The best parts of this movie include Blake Lively in magical wigs. She has this wig on. She has that wig on. It looks ridiculous. It looks cartoonish. The plot is cartoonish. None of this makes sense. I sat in this movie, in this screening, next to a couple of other local critics and began having conversations with them about why this movie makes no sense. And no one could give me an answer why someone should care about the characters in this movie. And that's the hard part to deal with. Because Blake Lively does her best, and I mean her absolute best, to make you care about these characters. I can tell you one thing for sure, 2 things for certain. Her ability as an actress is great. She does everything humanly possible. If you ever saw her in The Age of Innocence, which is another one of her, to me, more underrated performances, if you saw her in something like that, that's what this reminded me of as a performance that is so captivating, but empty. Because it's empty. It makes no sense. It is not necessary. No part of Stephanie Patrick in this film is necessary. Now, with the books, we get a little broader view of her, and what her goal is. Now keep in mind, she's supposed to be just a regular person who makes this extraordinary choice to lead down this path to find vengeance for her family. But in this movie, because it's hard to convey it from book to screen, it makes no sense. Like, we see her train for what amounts to 6 weeks to become an assassin. And every time she gets a job to be an assassin, she screws up. Every time. She fights like a regular person. Every time in this movie. It is so irritating. Not because you expected her to have special skill set, because that would be unbelievable. But you would at least expect some kind of mindset that I'm pushing for this for my family. And we get to the final fight, the final battle, and it's still unbelievable. Again, the plot makes no sense. And that's part of the issue here, is the plot makes no sense. She's discovered. She wants vengeance for her family. She finds out that there's this big conspiracy behind this bomber and these other people who brought down this plane crash. Do we know why they bring down the plane? No. Do they explain why we should care that they brought down the plane? No. We just know that they're in the spy game along with Jude Law, and somehow Sterling K. Brown is an ex-CIA operative, and nothing is explained though. Not a single thing. So when we get to the big fight scene, semi-conclusion to the big twist and reveal, all of it feels so undeserved and so empty. You're just left like, why did I just sit through this movie? I think this is what happens when you take a source material that's not good to begin with and attempt to turn it into a good movie. Now the cast, I can't blame them, because there's nothing there for them to work for. Again, Blake Lively does her best in this film. Jude Law is sleeping through this entire performance. Sterling K. Brown looks like he cares less. I think they know they're in a movie that makes no sense, while Blake is trying her best as a starring role for her to make this movie work, because clearly someone thought, if this one is successful, we can branch this off to 3 more in this series. This is a great value version of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And I had hopes for this movie. And that's why I sound the way I do. I had hopes for this movie. I had hopes for this movie. I wanted to see how you can push the genre of the female spy thriller forward. It didn't have to be heavy on action. I didn't need action. I just needed to be heavy on making sense. And this movie does not make sense. Yes, she fights like a regular person. She should. She didn't train long enough to be extravagant. And in a pivotal scene in this movie, and she asks Jude Law's character, who's supposed to be her Mr. Miyagi, when are you going to train me to fight? And he said it would take too long to do that. And she said, well, I've been here a month. How much longer would it take to train me? He said, until menopause is a fond memory of yours. That's how long it would train you. That's how long it would take me to train you to fight. There, in an instant, is this movie. So anything that happens after that point, you're just wondering, like, how could someone who's experienced, a former MI6 agent, as Jude Law is supposed to play, decide to put someone completely inexperienced in the field? And unless he's trying to double-cross her, granted, I'm not going to give you the plot, but he's not. He's not trying to double-cross her. It makes no sense there. It makes no sense there. And then we get to the end scene, which I was so furious with the end of this movie, because the lead character does this walk, of this proud walk that we see in all action movies at the end when the hero has reached their goal. And you're looking at the character like, you didn't earn this. You did nothing right. And that's how I felt sitting through this movie. The director did nothing right. The film looks beautiful, but that's about it. The writers did nothing right. It makes no sense. Blake Lively did her best. Jude Law slept through this movie. Sterling K. Brown, I don't think really cared. That's the rhythm section. Out of 10, 2.5 out of 10 for the rhythm section. Skip this movie. Don't go see this movie. At all. Maybe when it lands on the streaming service, you may want to check it out. I wouldn't recommend it, though. But this has been another JVS movie review. Again, rhythm section starring Blake Lively, Jude Law, Sterling K. Brown. We giving it a 2.5. I think I said, yeah, I'm going to give it 2.5. Because Blake gives enough of a performance for that. 2.5 out of 10. Peace, people.